Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of CarX Drift Racing 2 with Broghammer Auto House. Today's episode is all about three-wheel motion. I had posted a top 5 drift clip yesterday that was an honorable mention by Kevin Perera, and we had a lot of interest in the three-wheel motion interest there. So I wanted to do a quick breakdown on how exactly you can tune your car to do a three-wheel motion, whether it's a big vehicle like this one on the screen here, or a little car or whatever. This should work for just about every car to get it into three-wheel motion. So I took a couple clips here of just trying it out. I thought it was funny. It looks like it flies like a trophy truck off of that ramp because the suspension's so loose to get the three-wheel motion to set up the way that I have it. So we're going to start with the Samurai 2. I always, typically for three-wheel motion tunes, do suggest you have a semi-slick tire. It's going to give you the most grip in the rear end to help kind of lift that front end, if you will. So this will be in the tuning house, Brogue Auto House. You can find it there under the Samurai 2. This one does have the 7.0 V8 swap, so that may not work for most of you guys to grab that tune because of the engine, but we'll jump into it here. So I have the spring size maxed out, stiffness all the way down. This is on the front suspension. You want the sway bar locked out completely, as stiff as possible. Most of these other settings I left pretty similar to how I drift normally. 4 degrees camber, casters locked out, 69% Ackerman, all that. Now it gets funky when you switch to the rear. Take all your rebound, all your bumps, everything all the way to the bottom. -1 camber for ideal grip. 10 degrees of toe is fine. No sway bar in the rear. You want that rear to be loose. And no stiffness, and then also some good height there. Now we're running a 345 in the rear and a 305 up front, so it gives us much more rear grip than up front, and that should help kind of squat the car back down and lift up the front end for that three-wheel motion classic look. And I didn't change a whole lot with the gearing. Just make sure that your diff ratio is over a 0.5. I think that is important for this. And then obviously you can poke your wheels out a little bit because it's going to be somewhat lifted. And if you've ever watched Formula Drift with Chelsea Denofa and Von Gittin Jr. over the last couple of years, they used to be big on three-wheel motion, and their cars did look like monster trucks when they sat in the parking lot. They were so lifted. So that's why you kind of need that suspension travel in order to make this work. So as you can see, when you swing it in, I don't have the best drift line because I obviously don't typically drift with this type of a setup, but you can see it's really loose, really floppy, and that front end just picks up because that front sway bar is so stiff that when the rear end rotates, body rolls left, the front end kind of tries to keep it the same distance from the ground, so then it naturally lifts that front right wheel or front left wheel, depending on where you're doing. Thought I'd pause and show you guys a little picture here. You can see how it's gapped in the rear right. Big gap up in the front and the three-wheel motion up in the air, and then in the back left it is just slammed all the way in the ground because there's really no suspension there holding it. It's pretty much just going to drop down to the bump stops. So as you can see, swinging around here, you can get some more speed. I could play with the tuning a little more on this one. Once I get to 5th gear, this setup really doesn't work just because it has so much grip in the back when it squats like that. So I could change that eventually, but I'm not going to do that from the get-go. We'll play around with this setting some more. It is kind of a fun way of driving. It's a little bit more unpredictable, not as stable, obviously, as a typical drift car would be when it's lowered down. And you can see I got a little too much grip there. Ended up rolling it because the side was squatting and I wasn't really in drift. I was just trying to turn at a pretty high rate of speed and rolled over, which I thought was kind of funny. So if you guys have any questions about this, you should be able to do it for most any vehicles with similar suspension settings to what I have on this car. I will probably try it on a couple more vehicles as well as we move forward. And I really want to get one where if somebody out there has a three-wheel tune like this that is just awesome to drift and like take home the win on a top 32 or a top 4 blitz or something like that, please reach out to me because I haven't really narrowed down how this can work very legitimately. I know Kevin Perera actually had himself doing some tandems in the top 5 drifts video yesterday, and they looked pretty solid. I mean, it was pretty well stable for how loose it is. And obviously, you know, how my rear suspension, I went all the way to no stiffness, no rebound, no nothing. I think you could probably bring that up just a hair for some more stability and still be able to get that three-wheel motion. It just won't be quite as dramatic as, you know, how it looks when the setup is this way, because it's just on the extreme end of what would be the settings for something like this. Got a couple more clips here, just flying around, trying out some different spots here. I did a track here at the LA block where on the final big curve, the wheel stays off the ground like the entire time. And I just thought that was so cool that it would just be kind of floating there. Here it is, starts right here, stays off the ground. It's completely cleared off the ground all the way around the corner, and it does not touch until right there at the finish. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.